Right, ladies and gentlemen, it's 22, so we'll crack on. Obviously, this is a budget meeting tonight, and as you can see, this is filming the full council in accordance with the arrangements set out in the report approved by council on the 21st of January 2016. We film a full council initially for a trial period commencing at a day's budget council meeting until and including the annual council meeting on 19th of May 2016. And I've just been told it goes out in Monday. It's available to be seen by everybody who wants to log on and look at it. Apologies as well as the first meeting. I don't think there's any change to that. And I invite Ray Glindon to introduce his report.
Thank you, Chair, and giving me the opportunity to introduce this Cabinet's first draft budget proposals for 2016 to 2019 to the Council tonight. We've all felt the effects of the global financial crisis, and this is particularly the case for councils, which are facing some of the largest reductions in the public sector. Over the last 5 years, North Tyneside has seen real terms funding a reduction of around £340 per head of population. Over the next 4 years, this reduction in funding is estimated to grow by another £150 per head of population. While we continue to lobby central government, we must just get on and deliver the services with the budget envelope that we've been given. In relation to the overall financial position, provisional local government finance settlement was announced on the 17th of December 2015. And the details of these are included in the bold page numbers 44 to 49 in your papers. The reductions in available resources and the service pressures we face have meant an ongoing review of the financial plan has been completed to make sure it continues to reflect the Mayor's priorities based on what the residents of North Tyneside told her when she was elected. In light of the financial challenges facing the authority, we are proposing a 2% adult social care precept to fund adult social care and a general 2% increase in council tax for next year of 2016-2017. To support the investment we want to make for our residents and to fund the local service pressures that we face in light of the reduced funding, we've looked at where we can make savings by making the organisation more efficient and reshaping our services to work more smartly, putting people at the centre of what we do, ensuring the authority maximises how it uses public money. Over the next 3 years, we estimate a need to make almost £56 million in savings, which will require a major change programme. The proposals here tonight include details of 2016-17, where we expect to make a savings of almost £16 million during that year. As part of the financial strategy, we have reviewed all the financial risks and made a prudent contingency budget provision where needed. We have engaged with the community, listened to their feedback and taken this into account when setting our budget proposals. In summary, Chair, despite the government cuts, we have taken a great care to ensure we have a budget fit for service delivery next year. And I would like, Chair, to hand over to the officer who will give a short presentation on the budget.
Thank you, Chair. I just have a short presentation in terms of the key features of the budget report in front of members tonight. In terms of the budget and financial plan, it's been developed in terms of the policy direction set by our North Tyneside plan and the strategic priorities that have been driven by that plan. It's the wrong presentation. Okay, so sorry about that. Just to cover off, in terms of the provisional settlement, the headlines of the settlement were received by us on the 17th of December. And what this illustrates on here is a continued reduction in the revenue support grant over the period of the budget and financial plan. Some growth assumptions around business rates, some significant growth assumptions around council tax, So our spending funding assessment, our settlement funding assessment, which is the original way that local government used to be assessed in terms of their spending power, reduces from 155 million in 16-17 down to 154 million in 18-19. But then what the provisional settlement has determined is a new assessment of an authority's core spending power. And included in that now is the new Better Care Fund monies, which we will start to receive in 17-18. New Homes Bonus, which will shift from 3.44 million in 16-17 down to 2.18 million by 18-19. And then Rural Services Delivery Grant is included within that, although North Tyneside Council doesn't actually receive that. So what the provisional settlement does is it tells us that the RSG will continue to be reduced, and what was announced was the intention to look to 100% business rates retention, which will be consulted on over the summer, so that it would appear that what the settlement is suggesting is we will have to become more self-financing and less reliant on central government grant. In terms of the general fund summary, we'll be moving from a net budget of 156.7 million in this current financial year through to 143 million for 18-19. The changes in that net budget level is a result of the reduction largely in central government grant. But also we have significant pressures that we've accounted for in terms of pay and price increase, some assumptions around demand-led pressures, principally in respect of learning disabilities and adult social care. We have pressures around our pension fund growth and changes to national insurance requirements for us. So certainly for 16-17, those pressures are nearly £13 million. And together with the reduction in resources means that the savings target for 16-17 is just short of £16 million at 15.737 million. In terms of the investment plan, the general fund plan for the next 3 years is almost £116 million there, 115.571, and the housing revenue account at 71 million. So in total, 186.8 million to be invested in capital projects over the next 3 years. In terms of the general fund, the key new projects included in the plan are the depot rationalisation, the ICT investment around citizen interaction and self-service, which is the progression towards digital delivery of services, but also an investment in Northumberland Square as an opportunity to generate further income for the authority. In terms of financing the investment plan, in terms of the general fund, we expect to secure nearly 58 million in terms of external funding across the 3 years, but the council contribution will also be in the region of 58 million, the majority of which is borrowing for that level of investment. And just there I've highlighted the housing revenue account in terms of the different funding resources that the housing revenue account has, but there's no additional borrowing built in for the HRA. I just wanted to remind Council that obviously we have to approve the Treasury Management Strategy as part of this report, and the borrowing strategy will remain as it has over the last few years, which is in line with the SIPFA code. So in terms of borrowing, we'll continue to look at the cheapest and lowest risk approach in the first instance, so we continue to maximise internal borrowing, and then consider options around temporary borrowing in money markets, and then think about longer term loans with the PWB or any other options that there may be. So we will maintain that strategy over the next 12 months. And in terms of investment, we continue to follow the principles of security of our capital, which means protecting our funds from loss. That we'll ensure we have liquidity of investments, so should we need to bring investments back in, we're able to do that. And then lastly, making a return on investments. I would say the market still remains very challenging in terms of securing investments in the current climate. I just want also to highlight Section 8, the provisional statement by myself as the Chief Finance Officer. I highlight in there that we have contingency provision of around 4.7 million. That's in respect of recognising potential pressures as regards the living wage, and that's largely around external contracting arrangements. Looked after children. We've seen in budget monitoring this year pressures around the looked after children budget, and whilst proposals are in place to manage that, we do have to recognise that that remains a risk for us, so there's contingency provision for there. And learning disabilities, we've continued to have pressure there, so we've provided some contingency provision in there too. In terms of reserves, there's a use of reserves of 2.3 million included in the financial plan. That is around, we're using the £300,000 that was built into this current year's budget as a contribution to reserves, so that's generally being used to support the budget. But in addition, we've had to consider using reserves due to the impact of appeals on our business rates provision. There is still a great deal of uncertainty around business rate appeals at the moment in terms of the volumes that we have having to manage. And the expectation of the outcome. So we've had to make a further provision, which we are funding from reserves as a one-off in 16-17. So if I can hand back to the Cabinet Member. Thank you very much.
The way we propose to do it is that obviously you'll be asking people last questions on the report. And what I said is that we will answer policy questions. If they're technical questions and we can't answer them, we'll ask the officer to answer them, rather than get people mixed up within the meeting.
Right, okay. I thought we were just going to have written responses by the 13th of February, but if the officers are going to reply, that's fine. But
Chair, you're on the chair, so...
Well, that's what I'll rule that if there's any question of a technical nature I can't answer tonight, there'll be a written response provided all members of council rule at the close of play on the 13th. I think that's the best way instead, because this is a political budget, so we don't need the officers involved at the moment. What I propose to do tonight is adopt the following approach to deal with the members' questions. And there'll be some members tonight who know I've been to a budget meeting before, so they've got all these papers and all that. So it can be quite complex. But what we'll try and do is we've got the report, and the main report, which is pages 3 to 72, is in here. So we'll go through that. And then when we get to Appendix B, which will be the business cases, which probably the opposition will probably have questions on mainly as well, we'll just go through the business cases through each section, and you can ask questions on that as well. So by the end of the evening, everyone should have the ability to ask a question on the subject they want to do. And at the end of the evening, I'll ask for a roundup, and you can, members will be able to ask any final questions, which not really any specific page, but appear tonight for tonight's meeting. So at the end, I'll do a little bit of a roundup, obviously, if we've got time. And members try to be brief as they can and not to be repetitive or ask questions which you know the member can't ask, and just try and make themselves clever. So, and also, we'll try that. And if you do get lost with the paperwork or your question, just tell the Cabinet Member who's replying which paper you're working from, and I'm sure we can all work through it. So if everyone's in agreement, I would start off with pages 3 to 24, the main report appendix. Has anybody got any comments or questions on that one, please? Right. Councillor Wallace?
Thank you, Chairman. On page 12, it refers to the proposed increases in council tax, of 2% in council tax and the 2% to fund adult social care. Can the Cabinet Member tell me precisely how each of those will be spent, please?
Chair, if you read the papers, the 2% for adult social care is a precept, which we've been told to spend it on that, and which is built into it because they've got to save on it anyway. The other 2% is entirely up to the council to spend it because it's built into the base. What I must tell the member is that this is not something we wanted to do. As the member will know, we've had no council tax rises for the last 5 years. But fortunately for us, or unfortunately for us, the Minister has built these figures into his base for North Tyneside Council. So it's not us telling the general public we're going to have a 2% plus 2% pay rise, council tax increase. It's the Minister. And if you read the papers, it tells you that in there.
Councillor Wallace?
Can the Cabinet member not therefore specify upon what projects this is going to be spent?
I've specified on the first one, which is the 2% on adult social care. We don't have any legality to specify on the second 2%.
Perhaps if I put the question another way, Chairman, what projects will not happen or what activity will not happen if those 2 rises do not take place? In other words, if the rise were not to happen, what activity would cease?
It's not a case of the rise not taking place. What I've just told you before is they've actually been built into the base by the Minister and the Chancellor. They built them into our base. And if you look at the figures properly, what you'll see is they've built 4% in and taken 4% off at the back end. So the actual council tax rise will end up neutral.
And Councillor Newman?
Thank you, Chair. I'm just wondering if I could ask you a couple of general questions before we start, just for those of us who are new, just so we can get our heads exactly around what's going on. I'm just wondering, over the past 5 years, what's been the total level of cuts to the council from the government, and what percentage does this represent? Yeah.
Over the past 5 years, the government cuts have the past 5 years, it's around £45 million, which is a 50% reduction in revenue support grant.
If I can just ask one more, just again, with us being a new council, I just want to know exactly where we're heading with the budgets and stuff. Over the next 3 years, what's the likely reduction going to be in percentage?
Next 3 years, it's we'll have to see it further £25 million due to government fund restrictions. This will represent another 27% reduction in the settlement fund and around 60% reduction in revenue support grant.
Thank you, Chair.
Well, we're heading over the cliff.
No problem. Nice to hear from a new councillor. If we've got nothing on pages 3 to 24, we will go to page 27 to 34, Annex 1. Annex 1, any questions on Annex 1? No? Okay, we're going to page... Sorry, Councillor Wallace, sorry, I didn't see you.
Thank you. On page 28, Chairman, it refers to the need to reduce inequalities. Can the Cabinet member tell me how much, whether the gap in life expectancy, health, education, achievement, etc., has narrowed in the last 15 years?
Can somebody answer that for Councillor Wallace?
I'll answer it on the basis that we're looking at this new project, and what's actually happened is the gap over the years has remained a stubborn 10 years, if not greater, and what we're saying is the actions that have taken place have not systematically reduced that, and that's why we need to take a different look at how we actually deliver it in those particular areas. So the gap does change at times, but the trend, if you look at the trend graph, the trend is still in the same direction of a large gap in the life expectancy.
Thank you. Chairman, is that the same with relation to the other items in the list, for example, educational achievement, skills and so forth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. If we move on now to pages 35 to 43, Annex 1, Section 2, the financial strategy. Any questions on that, please? Councillor Lott. Frank Lott.
Thank you, Chair. Can I refer you to page 40, the section relating to pension fund. It states there that the government intends to create half a dozen British wealth funds to invest in regional infrastructure projects. They intend to do this by using local government pension funds. Now, call me a cynic, but given if there was money to be made by investing in such projects, I'm sure that the government's friends in the private sector would have been the first invited to the table. But it appears that there's a reliance on the use of local government pension funds. This could have, or should I be asking what the implications are for North Tyneside as an employer, particularly if these investments don't actually deliver any financial gain? Will we, the council, have to pick up the cost of topping up the pension fund to make up any financial loss? Thank you.
Chair, I must declare an interest in this, but I think many people in this room will have, but it's on my list of things, so just before I speak about it, I'm just putting that clear. On the 5th of October 2015, the government confirmed its intention to hold talks with local government pension schemes to overhaul their structure and create half a dozen British wealth funds. On the 25th of November 2015, the government released a set of documents that takes this policy forward with the stated aim that these pools should each have assets of at least £25 billion, which are able to be invested in infrastructure and drive local growth. However, in the short term, it is likely that investments in infrastructure would just be a small part of a diverse overall portfolio. In order to mitigate risk associated with individual cases of investment as far as possible, it may become an issue in the longer term if a larger proportion of fund assets were held in any one type of investment vehicle or with any type of investment vehicle which underperformed. We're just talking about investment vehicles today, so it's difficult to say out fully the implications of the proposal as further details on how the British Wealth Fund proposals will work and still awaited from the government, but more information is expected in the March budget. With all the investments, yes, there could be implications for this for North Tyneside Council as an employer. If this type of investment, which the fund makes, do not deliver financial gain that is expected, then as an employer we will have to meet the shortfall, so we increased in contribution rate. So yes, it is a massive risk. And a cow bank for the government as well, I think.
Thank you. Councillor Martin.
Chair, can I ask a supplementary? It's supplementary to that question. Yeah. It's actually a question to our legal officers. I suspect the answer is yes, but is such use of local government pension funds recognised as being legal? Because it does seem to me to be placing at risk people's pensions. And I'll close by saying I declare the same interest as Councillor Glindon.
It's not been identified as unlawful at this point in time.
Thank you.
You have your answer. Councillor Martin Huskers.
Thank you, Chair. I've got a question on page 33 and one on page 42. On page 33, there's a list of engagement feedback shown. And I know that this appears elsewhere in the report, but I'm just asking it here for convenience. There's a list of 11, I think it's 11 bullet points, and I would just like to know what action the Council is taking to address the issues which have been identified by members of the public in the engagement process.
Thank you, Chair. The Council has been working on a new engagement strategy, and in the very near future, March in fact, we have an engagement action day where we're bringing together partners from across North Tyneside, where we will look at the engagement policy under the Health and Wellbeing Board. We've been working on the planning of that today, and officers from Councillor Burdis's portfolio are also involved in that, so we're trying to ensure that we have a very comprehensive engagement policy, but also one that is used by our partners or that fits in well with our partners, so that we ensure that whether it's the CCG or the health trusts or any changes that are proposed, there's a very comprehensive engagement process.
Thank you, Chair. And the question...
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, obviously, one of the bullet points there is more communication about proposals for the nursery childcare provision, and in light of the the petition that we've received today, we'll take that on board, and we certainly will be getting more communication about the proposals out there in response to the consultation, Chair, in light of the interest that it generated in the public.
Thank you, Councillor Grayson.
Thank you, Chair. The question on 42 is, when the officer was giving our report, she mentioned that certain areas were going to be contingency backed, but one of the risks that's identified on that page says there is a risk that the contingency provision, including the financial plan, is insufficient. Goes on to explain on the other side what they've done about that, but it also says more recently volatile waste recycling markets present new issues that continue to be closely monitored, which sounds as if there's still an issue with the contingency provision. So I'm just going to ask what the Council is doing to ensure that they have sufficient contingency provision, and if in fact they turn out not to, what actions they would be taking.
So yeah, any contingency you put in is a risk, right? But it's put in there because you've got to put them in. We're not saying that we're not going to use a contingency, but you've got to put it in to balance, not to balance the budget, but to ensure that the budget is correct and proper, right? All these risks, and this happens to be one of my risks, all these risks are checked on a monthly basis, right? And if there's any further doubt about that actually happening, we would then set up plans to lower that risk. But it's got to be in there. And I understand that question. It's like you know, if we don't put it in, we say, well, you've got no contingency in there. So, and I think I said that last year we didn't have any, but we did. So it's got to be put in there, and it is on a monthly basis. I mean, the Chief Finance Officer, we look at that on a monthly basis. So if there's any possibility that it's going to move, we would take action straight away.
Thank you, Councillor Jamal.
Thank you, Chair. I've got four questions on the technical partnership with Capita on page 40. The first one is, can the Cabinet member confirm that when the contract was signed in November 2012 by the then Mayor Naorki and the then Cabinet member for Finance Judith Wallace, significant mistakes were made in the agreement that have been detrimental to the Council? What were these mistakes?
Mr. Pickford.
Yes, thanks for the question. We have found that some of the business cases constructed during dialogue were not fit for purpose, and financial information and budget information did not reflect those business cases. The speed with which the deal was done led to different understandings on the part of the Council and of Capita. That's why myself and Councillor John Harrison are working now with officers and Capita to try and put these right. Some of the areas that were wrong were issues which, quite frankly, I believe should not have been there. So, for instance, they demanded that Capita would be charging Coalfleet £4,000 per desk. However, when they signed the Coalfleet agreement, they forgot to put in that Coalfleet had to pay for the desks when they came across on the council, so therefore there's a massive charge there. They forgot that in the technical section, that the actual cost was not the cost of the wages, it was the total cost, which was the wages minus any income they received from fees, so insufficient budget was transferred across to maintain that function. And perhaps the most galling one of all was that this was designed to make savings to stop us from having to reduce the general fund, and they forgot to specify that the savings had to be for the general fund. So the Capita were claiming, for instance, if we sold a piece of land, that capital expenditure was a saving to the council. So significant areas that we're having to redo in the work with Capita.
Thanks. Could I further ask, how much did the contract specify would be saved per year, and what was the cumulative to date? What's been the cumulative savings to date?
Okay, over the lifetime of the contract, the deal assumes the generation of £82.181 million worth of savings. some of which are required to fund the investment needed by Capita to achieve these savings. The contract specifies that the Council will receive 41.263 million of savings over a 15-year contract life, delivered through savings in the managed budget and adjustments to the annual contract value paid to Capita. The revenue budgets of the Council have been adjusted to reflect the saving each year to 2.802 million savings per annum from year 3, 2014-15, and remain at this level for the rest of the contract. By the end of 2015-16, which is year 5, the cumulative savings value due to have been delivered to the Council's revenue budget per the contract would have been 8.61 million.
Okay, my final question is, do you think these projected savings will be achieved?
Well, they already have not been achieved. The shortfall in the required levels of savings are 1.4 million shortfall in 2013-14, 2.3 million shortfall in 2014-15, and so far the figures, provisional figures for 15-16 show a further significant multi-million pound shortfall. That is why we are now negotiating with Capita that they have to come to the point that they can't deliver the contract, and we are in commercial contract negotiations with them to try and get it back on track.
Thank you.
Any more questions on 35 to 43? Councillor Mason.
Thank you, Chair. It's just an interesting point that Councillor Lott brought up. Can I ask the Cabinet member if he thinks that the private pension companies would have come forward with money had Gordon Brown not raided with stealth tax on tax relief on share dividends costing £100 billion?
Councillor Mason, it's a bit irrelevant to this, unfortunately.
I thought it was relevant to Councillor Lott's question.
Right, okay. Well, okay.
Thank you.
Do you want to give an answer or not? All right. All right, I don't sorry. Councillor Wallace.
Thank you, Chairman. Can the Cabinet member confirm that the external auditors reviewed the Council's affairs and said that the Council was well managed during the year in question with regard to the during which the partnership agreements were signed?
They may have done, but I'm not sure whether they had read the same agreement that I've read and then come up with the same solutions that we have. I mean, at the end of the day, they have to provide within the agreement the financial savings to the Council. They are not being delivered. It is clear from them that they have come to us saying they cannot now deliver the original agreement within the contract. And the mistakes that were made, I would have expected anybody of a political level to have noticed those before the documentation went out.
Is the Cabinet member suggesting that the external auditors and indeed the internal auditors did not do their job correctly?
I think you've got your answer.
Well, what I will say is I've asked to why the mistakes were made. Unfortunately, all the officers who made them have now left the authority.
We'll move on.
All the officers?
We'll just move on. We'll go back to pages 44 to 49 now, Annex 1, Section 3, Division Local Government Finance Settlement. So that's pages 44 to 49. Sorry, Gary Madden.
Thank you, Chair. I've actually got 3 questions I'd like to ask.
Yeah, go ahead.
So with regard to spending power on page 44, what is included in the spending power and how does it affect our government funding?
The government's core spending power calculation now includes settlement funding assessment, which is a revenue support grant and business rates income, council tax requirement, and the potential council tax available from the adult social care council tax flexibility, improved better care fund, new homes bonus, rural services delivery grant, which doesn't affect us. All of the elements of the core spending calculation except the council tax requirement set out in the funding the council is what we received from the government.
Thank you. Does our future funding from the government assume a continuing 2% adult social care precept rise?
Yes, it's a new thing that came in this year. It was the Minister or the Chancellor said it. To allow councils to gain a bit more money, we're allowed to put 2% precept, which is purely for adult social care. And that will be for the next 4 years.
Okay. The final question, if we do not increase the adult social care precept, will that result in larger cuts to adult social care?
Well, as you know now, we're struggling anyway for adult social care. And if the precept hadn't come along, we would have been in a rather sad situation. People in this borough are getting older, not younger, and some of us are getting less healthy. So, whilst the 2% doesn't itself meet the pressures of rising adult social care, there will be large cuts needed if the precept is not applied in future years. We have made well, all the money's going into this year, but it was money we're going to have to put on in anyway, so it's made it a little bit easier. The point I'd like to make, the point which I don't know if I made before, is that, you know, it's the government's way of putting council tax up and, on a base rate, on a precept, of saying, blame the council because they're the ones that putting their council tax up. And the message from us should be, no, not because you're making us put it up. You are saying to us, put it up 2% on the base and 2% on the adult social care. And I can just guarantee you, when the elections start, 4% council tax rise, and it's your people that done it.
Is that you finished, Councillor
That's
Madden?
it, thank you.
Councillor Johnson, you indicated?
Thanks, Chair. I've got a couple of questions following on from Councillor Madden a little bit. Does our future funding from the government assume a continuing 1.7%, 1.75% increase in council tax?
Yes, it's an average over the term of the thing. It's next to the average of 1.7% increase in our council tax each year. This increase replaces the reduction in the revenue support grant. So if we did not increase the council tax, then yes, more significant cuts will be needed. And again, the same as what they've done with the council tax for the adult social care. They've given it with one hand, took it away with the other hand, so we're no better off, and we'll get the blame for putting the council tax up wrong. But I keep seeing this time and time and time again. It's not us putting the council tax up, it's the government.
Thanks. If we do not increase our council tax in line with the government assumptions, how much larger will the cuts to our budget be?
It's about £1.5 million a year for the next 4 years. So it's 4, 5, 6 million.
Thanks. In addition to council tax rises, how much does the government assume our council tax will grow?
They're assuming that the council tax will go, the council tax base of around 3.2%. Average annual increase.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks. How many additional houses per year does this represent?
Well, it represents, and this is where, you know, it's not, they're putting everything on our backs now, because it represents 1,000 houses in Band D. So if we don't build 1,000 houses in Band D within the year, it'll be whatever we don't build, it'll be money that we're not getting, because they are presuming we're going to build 1,000 houses in this financial year, so we'll get 1,000 extra council taxes. If we only build 500, we'll only get 500 council taxes, so we'll be that 500 short. You know, it's a case of hangman's loose, I think. So, you know.
And so, would you agree that the local plan currently going through is crucial to our future fiscal management of the council?
Say that again, I didn't quite catch that.
Would you agree that the local plan currently going through the process is crucial to our future fiscal management of the council?
Exactly.
Go.
Thank you, Chair. It's actually a question on page 33. I did indicate at the time I thought we'd seen it. Okay, thank you. Can I just ask the Cabinet member, the engagement ran from the 8th of December to the 31st of January. How many consultation events were held for residents during that time?
It's back to page 33 about the consultation events, what Marion Huscroft talked about. It's how many events was held, is that correct?
Yes, but specifically for residents.
Yeah, okay. Can anybody answer that? Or? Councillor Bruce?
Yeah, were you referring to which months? Because we've done 8 engagements. I mean, out and about, we did quite a lot during the summer months. But sorry, I didn't catch which months you refer to.
I'm specifically talking about budget engagement with residents.
The budget engagements, right. Well, first of all, we did a budget engagement meeting in Whitley Bay, but we've done budget engagements through various ways on the website. One actual meeting in Whitley Bay. We've done the customer first sent in Wallsend, and we've done online. We did it with the residents panel, staff panel. So there's various ways in which we've done the budget consultation. But it all started, we don't do it just at budget time, at this time of year. We actually do it throughout the year. So from the summer, we did the out and abouts, which is the big community conversations. This is how we shape the budget to where we are now through the council plan. And so we were asking residents questions with regard what they wanted to see in their borough, how it affected them, and what they would like to, any improvements, and how they wanted to be engaged.
Specifically on the engagement from in December through to January, when the specifics of the budget and the increases in council tax were put forward, when was the engagement in Whitley Bay then, and where?
I haven't got the date in front of me, but it was in Whitley Bay. There was one member of the public attended, as you well know. And yes, there was one member of the public attended. And from then, we've had the 21 community conversation drop-in events. But again, that was from October.
But nothing further in the coastal area other than one resident?
Well, there was the business. I mean, the way they've done all of the other community conversations, the mayor's listening events and the budget proposals, all of that has been done in a various way, which I've already said, through the residents panel, the business forums, the partnerships, the strategic partnership, all our partners. They've all been consulted and they've all had feedback in the council.
Thank you. What I'm referring to particularly was face-to-face engagement with residents. And it sounds like, from what you're saying, the only engagement was with one resident at the coast.
No.
I understand the only other event was held in Wallsend.
That was a meeting, and we've had lots of other meetings with residents. As I said, the residents panel. We've had communication online, on Facebook, on the website. We've also started this, how we shaped the budget to where it is today. We started that engagement back in the summer, as I alluded to earlier. And that is how we shape the council plan to get us to where we are now in the budget proposals. And we have consulted with 2,500 people over that period of time.
With regard to face-to-face engagement...
Yeah, I think you made your point. Well, I finished, so that's it.
So you're not going to allow me to continue?
No. If you're going to go the same... What I said at the beginning, I said, try and keep it to the point. Try not repetition. You've made your point, which I think you've done very well, which is about public engagement. And I think you've got your answer. You may not agree, but that's the way it is. Councillor Graham.
Thank you, Chair. I've got a couple of questions on business rates, page 47-48. How much does the government assume business rates will increase over the next 3 years?
Chair, for 16-17 it's 0.8%, 17-18 2%, 18-19 3%, and 19-20, I know you asked for 3 years, but 19-20 3.2%.
Thank you for that. And I note that the government has withdrawn support for our hard-pressed local retail businesses. Can you confirm how much will be withdrawn from each individual business and the total loss to our retail businesses?
I don't know what to do with each individual business, but I'll give you an answer anyway. The business rate relief scheme came into place, scheme that has been in place since 2014-15, will not continue until 2016-17. The amount of retail relief for all occupied retail properties with a rateable value of 50,000 or less is currently up to £1.5 thousand per year. And we have around 7 businesses are currently getting that relief in North Tyneside. Sorry, 700, I wish it was 7,000. In North Tyneside currently benefit from this relief, so there's a total loss of about £1 million.
Councillor Vanna, you indicated?
Yes, unfortunately, Chair, I think I've got about 6 questions. And these are to do with pages 48 and 49, I'm hoping. The first one is mentioned on page 48, and that's the Chancellor's announcement of the 600 million worth of savings to be made nationally from the Education Services Grant. How much will this cut be over the next 3 years for North Tyneside? I know it's in the, but could the Cabinet Member remind us of what the figures are? Because I think they're very important figures.
Yes, Chair. As Councillor Mulven has highlighted from page 48 in the report, the Chancellor has announced that there's going to be a £600 million worth of savings will be made nationally from the Education Services Grant. It's currently about 800 million nationally, so 600 million is, as the report says, a 75% cut. We haven't had it outlined exactly what the level of cuts will be each year over the next few years. However, we have been informed that we will be expected to cut for 2016-17 about 255,000 from the budget that we currently have of 2.876 million, which is in effect an 11% cut this year. If the Chancellor proceeds with his 75% reduction of the ESG as is indicated, that would mean that North Tyneside would have about 720,000 left, which is, over the next 3 or 4 years, an additional £2.156 million cut to education services. This is the amount that we receive as a local authority on a per pupil basis on an unring-fenced grant that is at the discretion of the local authority how it is spent. So the services that would be affected if this cut was implemented through the 75% cut and the 2.1 million we'd lose would be the education welfare service, school improvement, asset management education. It would also include statutory and regulatory duties and also therapies and health related services.
Thank you for that. My next 5 questions basically came out of conversation with residents recently over mainly the issue of childcare, so I would like to ask Councillor Grayson these. Can Councillor Grayson reassure parents of the quality provision of any existing new providers?
Yes, Chair. And we didn't have time to highlight this in the debate earlier, but all registered childcare providers are subject to Ofsted. That's childminders and nursery and childcare daycare centre. They're all subject to Ofsted. 85% of our childcare providers in North Tyneside, and that's including childminders and daycare centres and all of them, 85% of all of them are good or outstanding. All early years providers have to deliver early years foundation stage framework for 0 to 5-year-olds. And the local authority early years quality improvement team supports the sector to improve quality. In addition to that, Chair, 2-year-old funding can be withdrawn from nurseries if they're not rated good or outstanding, so that the funding for 2-year-olds could be withdrawn. Slightly different regulations regarding the 3- and 4-year-old offer. If a provider had an inadequate rating from Ofsted for 3- or 4-year-olds, then funding would be withdrawn there. So these criteria will clearly ensure that there is quality control and ensure quality provision of providers of childcare in North Tyneside.
Thank you for that. Can you tell us what the level of vacancies are currently in childcare places?
Yes, Chair, this was also touched on in the earlier debate about the petitioners. And the authority do a childcare sufficiency survey every year. And they are right when they said that the survey was carried out in June 2015, but it's currently being collated and will be published in March, as it is every year. I've actually seen and have a draft copy of that report, and it is indicating that there will be 24% vacancy rate across all of North Tyneside. This is not taking into account the new provision mentioned earlier in the debate that I referred to, where there are firm proposals of new providers and also additional school provision and expansion. So that isn't taking that into account. Those additions would be on top of the 24% vacancy rate that we have for 2015 going through to March 2016.
And do you know how many private, voluntary and independent daycare nurseries have vacancies?
Yes, Chair. 25 out of 27 private, voluntary, independent daycare nurseries contacted this week, so to emphasise this is the information from this week, reported that they had vacancies. 25 out of 27 this week have reported they have nurseries, which is a very high percentage.
Right. Can you reassure the Council that childcare services for the most vulnerable will not be reduced?
Yes, Chair. I think I did touch on this again, Chair. All families needing support will be offered assistance by the Council if they request it. That's all families. However, in addition to Councillor Mulvena's specific question, vulnerable children and their families will be supported by an experienced team to access the most appropriate childcare. The most vulnerable will be able to access commissioned childcare places in private, voluntary, independent settings or schools, so they will receive commissioned childcare. The childcare review will not impact upon the wider services offered to vulnerable families.
Thank you for that. Will these proposals make childcare less affordable for families?
No, I don't believe so, Chair. There's a number of factors that will ensure the Council's proposals will not drive up charges. The local childcare market is characterised by small independent providers and is very competitive. We only have a small number of daycare nurseries that are part of a national chain. We expect significant growth in the market, particularly as 15 hours is available for 3 and 4-year-olds, but in 2017 there will be 30 hours funded free places for working families. So that there will be all of this provision that is available, and because it's a competitive market and there are a lot of providers coming on board all the time expressing an interest, we do not feel that there would be any dramatic increase in prices in the provision in North Tyneside.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Davies?
Thank you, Chair. Can I apologise for my voice? Sorry. It's the Cabinet Member. This question's directed from Section 4, page 22. Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry about my head.
Look, yeah. We're on pages 40 49 now, which is the Annex 1, Section 3. Sorry, we'll come back next one. Anybody? Councillor Wallace.
Thank you, Chairman. Just recently, in response to a question, the Cabinet Member said how much the council tax rise would achieve in the financial year. Could you repeat that figure, please, because I didn't quite catch it.
Can you just...
1.4, 1.5, I don't know the exact figure. I'll get it for you, I'll ask the officer.
We'll just get it...
1.5.
Yes, so £3 million will be achieved by a 4% rise. Is that what we're saying?
I'll presume that's what you're saying, is it? Yeah.
That's what you'd have to do.
Would you like that in writing?
Thank you, Chairman. That would be helpful, even though we don't know specifically.
If that could be provided in writing, then that would clear up for the no doubt when you come back on the 18th. Yeah. Right. Okay. Right. Go on,
Sorry, I have a further question. On page 44, Chairman, it says that the government has outlined an offer to local councils to take up the offer of a 4-year settlement to aid medium-term financial planning. Is North Tyneside Council planning to take up that offer?
So yeah, it depends on what the conditions are. There was a survey carried out by the government which we sent back. We're still waiting to see what the conditions are. if we find it's good for North Tyneside, we will take out the 4-year plan. Putting another year on this plan will make no difference at all to the budget that we're talking about tonight.
Okay. Right, okay. We'll move on now to pages 50-52, which is section 4, the Cabinet's draft budget proposals header. And I believe Councillor Davies wants to speak.
Yeah, sorry.
No problem.
Just for the Cabinet Member, I just would like to explain the public health grant is to reduce by 1.0667 million. In addition to this, there's cuts of a further 0.774 million. What are the cuts proposed over the next 3 years?
Thank you, Chair. Following the 6.2% in-year cuts to the public health grant, which Council will recall were announced in November 2015 and amounted to 774,000, we have now been re-advised that that 6.2% will be a reoccurring cut for the next 3 years, but there will be a further reduction of 2.2% this year, and that then gives us the figure of approximately 1.067 million. There'll be a further 2.5% in 2017-18 on top of the 6.2%. This will mean that between January 2016 and March 2018, we're now expecting to have 3.234 million less to spend on public health, and a further reduction is also expected for 2018-19. And I'd just like members to bear in mind that this equates over those 3 years, that 3.234 million, to a 24% cut in the public health grant, in a grant which is considered to be crucial to enabling councils to manage costs for care by prevention. And it's 24%, it's absolutely massive. Thank you.
Councillor Drummond, did you indicate?
Thank you, Chair. Refer to page 51. Can the Cabinet Member explain that the schools have decided to cut the money they give the Council for early years services by 1.3 million? How will this affect the services we provide? Yes, Chair. After we'd already gone into the budget consultation process, there was a schools forum meeting, and the schools forum elected representatives from all of the schools has the oversight of the school's budget and the allocation. They decided at this year's meeting, which was only a few weeks ago, not to allow the local authority to retain a large chunk of money which that is for early years provision, and it's as the council says, over £1 million. However, through negotiations following that meeting, the schools forum have agreed that we can phase that reduction over 2 years. So it is in effect £500,000 a year for the next 2 years of additional reductions to find, because this money will now be delegated to schools. The schools can receive this money and there is no compliance or criteria with which they have to spend it. The council spent it on early years childcare provision and all of the other needs for young children. That is why and part of that was because it was so late in the budget process and we'd already consulted. The additional money that we had to find this year is part of the contingency that the Chief Finance Officer referred to, and it obviously will give us a challenge of the £500,000 that we have to find additionally next year. This clearly will, as Councillor Drummond's highlighted, this clearly will impact on services for early years in light of the other pressures as well. And clearly, as the decision's only just occurred in the last couple of weeks, there will be further conversations between myself, the senior officers, about the impacts of this.
Thank you. Any more questions on 50 to 52? No one indicating? We'll go on to pages 53 to 57. The Cabinet draft budget proposals, Annex 1. 53 to 57. No. Okay. 58 to 66, Annex 1. Section 6, Treasury Management Statement. No. 67 to 68, which is a response to overview scrutiny and policy development committee. Yep. 69 to 71, Annex 1, Section 8, provisional statement of council by the Chief Finance Officer. Yep. And then we come on to page 72 to 118, which is appendices A alpha to here to hotel. Now, we can obviously got appendix A, so has anybody got any questions on appendix A? A for alpha. Just my accent. Councillor Bolger?
Thank you, Chair. EDRMS was integrated into the council to save costs and had an ageing system that recorded for ICT. What is the unitary charge that's allocated for the next 2 years? Can somebody explain that to me?
Yeah, if you could just indicate. Page 73, councillors.
The charge on page 73 is now at the stage 5 of implementation of the EDRMS, just going off top of memory here. And what this represents is the charge we now have to start paying for the license for the software. How that is then split down would have to be an answer from an officer, the technical, but that's what it is. It's the overall charge for the license for the software.
Can then come in 2018-19 indicate 0? Is that likely to increase?
If you look at the first business case, how we're actually handling the whole thing of the introduction of new technology, that and the other platforms, when we're moving from the legacy platforms to the new ones, haven't yet been decided on the software. Things like open documentation may have an impact on it. How we manage the desktop refresh may have an impact on it. So it's been rolled into the overall IT program that we've got, and they're all covered in the first business case on the next level.
Thank you for that. Any more on appendices here? Right, if we go to appendices B, which is page 74, if you want to use the big sheets, and you can any questions or anything with any business cases. So it's obviously a weighty document, so we'll start at page 74, and I won't read them all out, obviously I'll be here all night, but is there any questions on 01 on page 74? If you jump ahead of yourselves and you see one, just indicate and I'll come to companies. 02, 03, 4, 5 and 6.
Sorry,
Yep.
excuse me, Chairman, can I just clarify that we are going to then go through the business
Yeah,
cases?
well, if it's linked to the... Yeah, we'll go through the business cases now, yeah? So
But the business cases which are set out...
right at the back, yeah. But I'm just saying, if we can go...
Pages 1 onwards.
It's the linked, if you link them up.
Right,
Yeah?
okay.
So I thought it would be easier for us to link them up and then start... But if you want to... Which we... we'll go back to one, which is citizen interaction. So which... I'm just trying to find a way which we can all...
We understand what you're doing. Thank you, Chairman.
You got what I'm trying to do, yeah?
Right. So we're linking the two things together.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Instead of just moving papers around, I thought it would be easier just to go with the flow. So we'll go back to the page 74, which is 01. And Councillor Mason, I think...
Thank you, Chair. So this is Citizens Interaction Delivery Service. Yeah. Thank you. I'd like to ask, Chair, if... obviously, it's going to be more cost effective, more efficient. Systems have got a tendency to go down. If the systems do go down, I'm presuming incidents will be logged. If they're logged, will it be quantified and costed? And are there any reserves and contingencies for that?
Reply, please.
You may have noticed there are some problems at the moment with systems going down, but that is because of the age of the equipment that we actually have. And it mentions in the full business case at the back end, the digital strategy. We're investing £1 million a year. That's actually upgrading our networks and the systems. Then there is, yes, there'll be an incident log that if something comes down, we'll be able to then identify why it came down and what strategic action can take place. We're also looking at how we can look at our backup servers and put them in a different location, and how we actually work between the backup and the main servers in the event of a catastrophic failure. For instance, where we had a problem on the ventilation system in this building, we had to fall back to the server. So all that is taking point because it realised how important the systems will be, that we need to have proper, if you like, fallback position on each individual case.
Thank you, Chair. But I did ask if there was any costs, anything quantified, reported.
The cost will come about when we actually do the final procurement. If you look at the very back of the documentation you've got here, there's the business case that goes through for the capital investment. Once we've identified the various levels of equipment we require, and before we go out to procurement, we'll have to look at the contingency levels that would then be applicable in Marine. So, for instance, if we're going to replace some of the very old legacy systems that we have, obviously the cost of failure will be much less than if we maintain that particular system. That will come out during the discussions on the investment strategy. Hopefully that answers the...
Thank you. So just to give everyone the heads up, especially new members, we can do it the other way. It doesn't make a big difference to me really, which I went through the main report. It's pages 2 to 15 on this, and we've also got the big one, which is pages 74. So it's which one, as long as you indicate which one you're working on. But on the business cases, 01 is 2 to 15. And Councillor Mason's asked the questions. Anybody else wish to ask a question on that? No? Okay. And then if we use this weight sheet here, it'll be the next one will be 16 to 20, which is 02 workforce change. Workforce change, if anyone wants to. Have any questions on that? Councillor Wallace, you've just got your light on. I know you've been... There's no problem, just in case... Right, so we're 16 and 20 workforce change, which is 02. If there's no questions on that, we'll be going on to pages 21 to 26, which would be creation of wellbeing services. And this is the revised one. Remember, I've got two speakers, 21 to 26. The revised creation of wellbeing services, and I've got Councillor Wallace first of all.
Thank you, Chairman. In business case 3, physical activity is mentioned on several occasions and the desirability of increasing that by a greater number of people. I'm sure members will recall that over the last few months we did receive a report dealing with health matters, which considered physical activity in the way of encouraging people to be more active. And my colleague Councillor Hodson pointed out at the time that part of health it was not just the physical activity, it was the food, the type of food, the quantity of food which people consumed, as well as the other half of the equation. Whilst obesity is mentioned in this report, in this business case, there doesn't seem to be much attention to that, and I'm wondering if the Cabinet member can tell us what is proposed for that half of the equation, please.
Reply, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. You mentioned, Councillor Wallace, the award-winning Active North Tyneside programme that we have, and the plan for the council is to exploit that to the maximum we can by using our leisure centres as centres of excellence, wellbeing, health and wellbeing hubs. So as well as physical activity, it will also offer advice on a range of matters, and that will include diet, and will also, as part of our 0 to 19 review, having multidisciplinary teams based in hubs across the borough. They will work in conjunction with the Active North Tyneside programme to offer a very comprehensive offer. As you say, high sugar, high fat diets are not good, and we do have continuing problems with obesity, and this is something we are very keen to address. However, generally, if people are motivated to get active, they're also motivated to eat better and look after themselves better, and we believe this is the way to go forward.
Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Chair. Just on the business plan, under risks, it says decommissioning part of the stop smoking service provided by GP practices and pharmacists may negatively impact on the relationship with GP practices. Just wonder if there's any fallout of that, because I know the service has changed already.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Miller. In fact, the reissue business case actually shows a different dialogue for that. That was an error. It was one of the things we looked at initially, but what we did when we looked at the stats and saw what was most successful, the highest numbers going through, it was very clear that a cost-effective measure of helping people give up smoking was through our GPs and our pharmacists, and therefore we recognised that it was really important that we continue to do that. We've had to look at other ways that we deliver stop smoking intervention, and where at the moment some of our public health nurses do that, they can only deliver to very small numbers. But we believe the combination of GPs and pharmacists, together with the health and wellbeing hubs that we're setting up, will also be able to contribute to that and give a very comprehensive offer.
Thank you, Chair. Just on that, just to declare an interest, we don't provide smoking services where I work anyway. But following on from that, given that we've had the easy win in certain circumstances, that people who want to stop smoking have already given up, and we're dealing with a cohort now that are the harder to tackle cohorts, where patients, we're having to try our best to get them to quit. Do you think changing the service is wise at this moment in time, and do you think that by changing the service you will encourage more people to stop smoking?
As you'll be able to appreciate, we've had to look at where we spend our money and how we make best use of it. Obviously, if we'd had another £1 million to spend this year, as we'd hoped, we might have been able to continue to do everything. However, I wouldn't say that it's just hardened smokers we're left with now. We have a growing number, unfortunately, of young people who are still smoking or choosing to smoke, and I think our education through the health and wellbeing hubs, GPs and pharmacists, will continue to be very important in trying to motivate them and to give up. And as someone who did smoke for a number of years, I say it's never too late to do that. So I think it's important. And at the moment, the figures are still going in the right way.
Thank you. Councillor Lilly.
Thank you, Chair. Mine's just a question about savings. You say that you want to withdraw North Tyneside's contribution to Fresh and to Balance, and you say that you want to renegotiate with North Tyneside Recovery Partnership to make necessary efficiencies. These are laudable aims, I suppose, but what contingencies are in place if these people, if you can't withdraw from the contributions to Fresh and Balance, and B, the North Tyneside Recovery Partnership refuses to make the efficiencies? Where are you going to save the money?
Thank you, Councillor Lilly. I mentioned the rewritten or reissued business case, and in actual fact you will see, if you look at that, we are no longer planning to withdraw from Fresh and Balance, and we're looking to find savings elsewhere. We signed a memorandum of understanding along with other councils, and we felt it was only right that we honoured that. And they do provide a lot of regional advice, which is very useful. As far as the North Tyneside Recovery Partnership is concerned, it is contracted, and you're quite right to say that we cannot enforce any reduction. However, we have started what are proven to be very positive negotiations with the provider, and to reduce that in this year for £100,000. And while the contract doesn't end till March 2017, and they're not under any obligation to assist with us, there's a clear understanding of our position as a council and that we need to find efficiencies, and they have demonstrated a willingness to work with us to deliver some of those efficiencies. So we can't say at this moment it's entirely risk-free, but because so much of our spending in public health is contracted, there's a limited number of ways we can go. Where we were looking to start some new programmes and contracts, we've had to actually not do that, but that still didn't release enough funding. We had to then look at what else we were doing, and really we're very lucky that there's goodwill there on the part of the North Tyneside Recovery Partnership, and I really believe that we'll be able to achieve it.
Okay, right, thank you. Yeah. Next page will be page 27 to 33, 04, single front door. And who's indicated? Councillor Miller, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Just a question on reablement. I do appreciate that the Council's got an excellent reablement team that's proved very successful in the last few years. Given that reablement is a demand-led service and we have an ageing population in North Tyneside, do you feel that by reducing the capacity, we'll have the, by reducing the team, we'll have the capacity to cope with any increases in the future years?
Thank you, Councillor Miller. Actually, what they're looking to do is actually move it over to a more therapeutic or therapy-based team and move it into CarePoint, which will be based at Rake Lane Hospital. Some of it actually looks within the business case that actually they're reducing the team, but in fact that's not the case. I've been advised by officers that some of they're holding vacancies. So in some ways it's not, they're actually restructuring the team as, and because they're going to be working with multi-agency staff within CarePoint, it actually isn't a reduction in terms, it's just a restructuring, realigning and redesigning of the team to a more therapy-based team.
So there's not a reduction of 15 members of staff?
There may be one or two. It's quite hard to say. Officers have said that because they're redesigning and realigning within the multi-agency team, there may be one or two within the fullness of time that may go out on VR or whatever. They are holding a number of vacancies, I understand, within the team already, but they're actually restructuring the team. Some of the vacancies are across the whole of the teams and not just reablement, although it does look like that. It actually is across a number of teams within that area.
Right. The second question that I've got is relating to the risks and reliance on continued joint funding from the NHS. Now, we all know how dire the CCG budget is at the moment, and I believe the turnaround team is trying their best, but it's not turning around quickly. Do you think we will still meet the target, given the NHS budget?
All I can answer on that is that continuing discussions with CCG, we're all well aware of the dire financial situation of the CCG. There is a turnaround board. I don't attend that board, but obviously senior managers do attend that board, and there are ongoing discussions. And we will be briefed, obviously, of any ongoing financial implications of that. And I'm sure you're well aware that there are other discussions about accountable care organisations and other various things going on as well with NHS England.
I do, yeah, and also mindful that the accountable care organisation will be in shadow form, or hoping to be in shadow form, by April. But I'm not 100% convinced of that until the Council of Practices make their decision. So just, you're confident that the NHS finances will come in the Council's direction?
Well, we have a good track record of working with our NHS partners, and we have a number of Section 256 and 75 agreements, and they've always honoured those agreements, and I have no reason to think that they will not honour them in the future. We have a number of agreements and memorandums of understandings and discussions with senior management at CCG and with NHS England obviously have given us no reason to understand that they wouldn't honour those agreements.
Thank you. Any more on that, this case? If not, we'll go on to page 3441, 05, payment strategy fees and charges, 34 to 41. Councillor Lilly.
Thank you, Chair. Could I just ask a number of questions in this
Yep.
section, if we just go through it section by section? Just have a couple of questions on school meals. I just wonder if the Cabinet Lead could tell us how much was raised from the external sales of school meals in the last financial year.
No, I don't have that information. I'm happy to get that for him. It is a very specific technical question.
Yeah.
Happy to get it for him, but certainly I do know that the services is regarded highly, and there is high optimism that there'll be increased income in future years. But I'll get the figure for
Right,
you.
so that was going to be my next question. What's the target for next year? But obviously that can come as part of that. The increase proposed in school meals will take our school meals to the top end of school meals within the region, with the resultant risk of a fall-off in demand. Do we have anything in place to kind of mitigate a loss of income from falling sales?
It is, well, obviously the figure that we've just referred to about potential additional income is unknown, so that's a risk, as is anything in the budget proposal is a risk. It is only a 2p increase, which is 1%, so previous figures have indicated that small increases don't generate a significant drop-off. If it have obviously been a significant or larger increase, then that's when potentially there could have been. So we're not expecting significant drop-off, and previous small increases have generated the income predicted.
Thank you, Chair. Could I just ask about the home school transport now? The £125,000 savings the result of a further reduction in young people accessing statutory provision?
Which page, sorry?
Page 36.
Certainly, there are no proposals to reduce our statutory provision. If there's a statutory provision, it will be done. What we're doing, as I think the business case outlines, is we're hoping to work more efficiently, as we have done over previous years, and reviewed home to school transport. Previous to last year, it hadn't actually been reviewed for some time, and there was clearly surplus in the system. So statutory provision will be provided. It's about working more efficiently and reviewing the home to school transport that we have, and we have found savings in the current financial year, and because there's so many cases to look into, we are very optimistic that there will be savings in the year going forward through an efficient look at the service.
With regard to home school transport, how much are you aiming to reduce the discretionary transport for to college to support post-16-year-old students? Is this going to be cut?
Right. It says in the report that there it's outlined on page 36 that provide free transport for compulsory 50-60. So it's as outlined in the proposal.
So you aim to save 30,000. So this is a complete U-turn from the previous position.
It's not a U-turn at all. We've just said that we are reviewing, that what we're actually doing with home to school transport is reviewing the efficiency of the service so that it will be reviewed. We're not actually stopping provision to those who need it or require it. It's actually looking at and making the system more efficient. That's what I said, that's the whole business case on home to school transport.
Just got the sport and leisure section, is that okay? Of this business plan. Could I just ask the Cabinet member why is increasing charges by more than 3 times the rate of inflation?
Basically because we think that's a fair rate to increase the prices from. The prices have already gone up and there's been no reaction whatsoever. I can confirm that myself because the last 3 or 4 weeks I've been playing bowls and nobody said a word. So it's been accepted by the public as a fair. And it works out roughly 10 pence for a bowls game, 10 pence for a swim.
So yet again another change of mind with regard to bowling. When we proposed to put them up, there was a hue and cry from the members opposite.
Yeah, that's because you double hours. We used to pay £600 when it was the old system. We're now paying nearly £1,300. So that's a big difference.
So you continue...
We're only talking about
just
23% increase.
Sorry, Chair.
Yeah, just try and keep the relevant points.
Sorry, I'll not argue. I think I should leave it there.
That's no problem. You can round up at the end, so you can think of something for the end if you want to do that. And I've got Councillor Hodgson, who's been patiently there.
Thanks, Chairman. I see bereavement service charges are to rise again. North Tyneside used to be the lowest cost for this service in the past. We now seem to be moving to one of the highest. And it mentions in the business case there's a risk that customers may move elsewhere. What is the reason for this further increase?
The reason is we've actually looked into what the charges are all around and we've come to about the medium. We might be higher in some cases, but we're lower in some cases. But at this moment in time, we provide a very good service. We've got a brand new crematorium there, and it's very well used. In fact, it's been used more than it's ever been used in the past. But at this moment in time, we're in about the medium of all the other councils around here. In the past, you were right, last time I was a cabinet member, I actually brought the car charges down, as Councillor Harrison will confirm. But as soon as a change of administration, they started putting them up again. So basically, we aren't the ones that tend to put these charges up, but we like to keep it in line with the other councils around here.
Chairman, but you are putting them up again, and in your own business case, you say there's a risk that people may not use your service. Isn't that a problem?
Well, there's always risks of people, but basically we have found there's been an increase in people using the services of the new crematorium this year. It's a beautiful building. We've actually put mercury abatement in, which was never put in the past, and it's sort of doing a very good service. With anything you do, there's a risk. You know, when you put out contracts to other people, they sort of bring them into the council as a risk, and it didn't work in a certain case, but basically there's always risks. We don't think the risk is substantial.
Just keep the point, please. Any more? I think it's Councillor Johnson next.
Thanks, Chair. I was delighted while looking through the budget papers to see very little about sport and leisure mentioned, so can the Cabinet Member confirm the impact this budget will have on our excellent sport and leisure provision in the borough?
Thank you, Chair. In spite of the financial challenges faced by the Council, I am pleased that we are able to continue our support for the borough's excellent culture and leisure services. This budget, while almost saving almost £500,000 from these areas, will have a minimal impact on the public. We will not be closing any libraries or in any way reducing our sport and leisure offer. Through the review of back office functions, increasing options for self-servicing and generating more income, we will deliver budget efficiencies which will continue to make North Tyneside a great place to live, work and visit.
Thank you.
Thank you. I've got Councillor Wallace next.
Thank you, Chairman. Staying with sport and leisure, can the Cabinet Member confirm that bowling green fees will not be increased in the current financial year?
It will be going up by 3%.
Next financial year, sorry.
It will be going up by 3%.
Will that rise be applied equally across the borough, Chairman?
There's standard fees, and it will be going up by 3%, yes. All bowling greens pay the same. Bowling clubs might share a green, and therefore they pay half the cost. But it'll still be for that bowling green.
Thank you. And will there be any additional bills or additional charges for bowling clubs for maintenance of the greens, maintenance of their buildings or the other assets which they use?
Certainly not for the greens, but some bowling greens have contracts with the council for their buildings, which is different to that, as you will well know, because it was also under your remit at the time.
And will the charges for those contracts be increased, Chairman? And if so, by how much?
They don't come under my portfolio, it can come under somebody else's.
Perhaps the relevant Cabinet Member could answer that then, please, Chair.
Can the relevant Cabinet Member answer that, or maybe give the writing, in writing to the...
I can just say, unless we know the specific building that they're asking about, and even then we wouldn't know that. We'd have to go through the council's database of property, and that would be answered for them. So if they give us precise details of the building and the charges.
May I suggest that, what can we do for all the buildings? Do you want all the buildings, or...?
Yes, it's all the buildings used by the bowling clubs
I think that,
that I'm referring to, Chairman.
What I'm asking for is that either that means some officers now got to sit down and go through hundreds of buildings to find out...
Just bowling clubs.
Just bowling clubs.
We don't know whether the bowling club is joint use of a building, because there could be one building that's got a bowling club on one side and say a cricket club, I don't know. So all I have to do is provide us with the buildings they're talking about, and we'll give them the answer.
Okay then, Chairman, I'll produce a sample list.
Yeah,
if you could do
it. Yeah.
That'd be helpful. And then we'll sort that out. Thank you. Are you finished now, Councillor Wallace, on this specific... Councillor... Yes, there we are. Councillor Mullen.
Thanks. It's just, there's a three-letter abbreviation I'm struggling with. That's all I would like some clarification with on page 38. It says they reduce the burden of reconciliation through the development of interfaces between ICT systems and AIM. Can someone tell us what AIM stands for, please? Because that means AOL Instant Messenger to me. I'm pretty sure it doesn't mean it in this context.
Somebody in the public
We'll get an answer on writing, because I don't know what it means either.
Okay. You've asked a good question there. You've stumped everybody. Right, no problem. Okay, right. So there's no more questions on payment strategy, fees and charges. We'll move on to page 42 to 47, 06C Alpha, Student Provision of Family Services, Denby and Battle Hill. Any questions on that? And I've got Councillor Lilly indicating.
Thank you, Chair. I just have a couple of questions. Councillor Grayson actually provided a full explanation as to what's behind the plans in 6A and 6B. I just have a couple of questions, if you would bear with me, just answer a couple that I have. How many of the school-based nurseries will be open from 7:30 a.m. and remain open until 6 p.m? Will they be moving to that being a common opening time for all school-based nurseries?
I don't know specifically what time individual school-based nurseries open or close. There is, as I did indicate, as he kindly said, I did indicate that there are a lot of school nurseries that provide a range of provision. Some provide provision for 2, 3 and 4s, some provide before school, after school, and obviously Daily Green provides from 0 to 5. But I've got to be honest, I don't know the exact opening times. What I can say is those schools that we have transferred provision to over the last couple of years have expanded their provision, and I certainly highlighted Apple Tree Gardens that we transferred 2 years in my own ward, where they now are doing a wraparound, and I did, I think, also refer to Greenfields in Wide Open, where they've expanded to wraparound. I'm more than happy to speak with officers and try and find out exact details of opening time, but not only school nurseries, all private, voluntary and independent nurseries and all have slightly different arrangements, opening times and things. I don't have that information to hand, but it will be wide and varied. I'm happy to look into the matter further.
It's just that I have a number of emails from residents
regarding 7:30
concerned that they obviously go to, and you know, I do for my own family, not in the area, but they have to have childcare from 7:30 till 6. And with running with the school-based nurseries, do they? Could you just remind me, because I'm having a bit of a senior moment here. Do they provide the same care during holidays as they do during term time?
Once again, not all schools. There's a range of provision, and I think I did read. Just draw attention to the list of the areas where has expanded, and I have actually got some stats somewhere that there has been an increase in the number of schools that provide childcare provision during school holidays. and I've got that many pieces of paper. I wish I could lay my hands on it at the moment.
Not
all, got to be honest, not all,
Yeah.
and certainly there are some, and there has been an expansion of those that we're providing it to cater for before school and also in holidays. But that's also something that we're going to have to take into account when we consider this further.
Yeah, because you can appreciate, obviously,
I do
parents
appreciate
who
the point
are
you're
moving
making.
from into that, and then have to think, well, I quite like what I'm getting, but I'm only getting term time, and then that causes the problem. Do we move where we don't want to move? And you did say that you think there's sufficient capacity coming on stream to cope with, in the private sector, to cope with demand. But unfortunately, that may be the case, but we don't really have, as a council, any control over what they charge. I know market forces will kind of decide what's charged. If there are too many spaces and not enough children, then prices come down and vice versa. But we don't have any control to stop them going up if there's a great demand for places, do we? Which could make childcare for parents in the borough more expensive if they have to go into the private providers.
Well, I did answer that comment earlier. No, I don't agree. I don't agree at all. Because of the diverse and small provider market that we have, there are a lot of competing providers who are seeking, obviously, children, customers, clients, whatever, and therefore market forces do keep prices down. It is a concern, it is a worry. However, we're confident that that won't be the case, because not only is there a 24% vacancy rate currently as of the sufficiency report this year, there are not only the additional places that I highlighted regarding schools and also the additional new providers that are coming on stream in the area of Walsall that I specifically referred to. There are other schools that I didn't name that are exploring the possibility, and we will support them. And there are also other nurseries in other parts of within the proposal who are at earlier stages of considering childcare provision. And I don't want to go into any detail yet, because
I think we're going about old ground here. So
I appreciate
but we're confident that there will be sufficient places that will maintain a high level of vacancy, which will not generate significant increase in costs.
That's fine. I think we've got it.
And just finally, Councillor Grayson, on page 53, you identify a risk where the local authority is a major provider of two-year-old offer places, and that the local authority, 41% of two-year-old offer funding went to local authority managed nursery provision. Now, obviously, we're going to come away from that. How big a risk do you see this as, us as an authority not being able to maximise our offer to our two-year-olds and possibly miss a key national and, as it says in the list, local priority?
Yeah, the report highlights that there's a potential risk, and we've obviously been upfront and honest there that this is a potential. Oak Trees is specifically for two-year-olds, and I announced earlier that we're prepared to review that and consider that as whether that is the final decision that we make. But there are now, and I think I did say that, if I didn't, I meant to, there's been 18 additional schools provide the two-year-old offer in the last 2 or 3 years, where previously I think there was only 2 or 3. We're now well over 20, and there are also other schools in conversations with senior officers about expanding their provision at two-year-old, because the schools see the benefit of getting the children earlier and also the additional income. And that'll be an expansion, and then it will lead into the 3- and 4-year-old. Yes, it's a risk, it's identified, it's something we're aware of, but we are also reasonably confident of the additional two-year-old offer places that are already in the pipeline and also being considered because of the extra interest provided by a large number of our schools.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Okay. We've got next one, which is 48 to 57, 06B, B Bravo, Community Provision of Family Services. That's pages 48 to 57, 06B. No? Okay, thank you. Right, the next one would be 07, support for schools, which is 58 to 61. That's 58 to 61, 07, support for schools. Councillor Lilly?
Sorry, Mr. Mayor.
That's all right.
Chair. Just a couple of questions here, Chair. If the council is not providing the schools improvement service, why should schools enter into service-led agreements with the council?
Sorry, what happens is that the North Tyneside Learning Trust contract to are in a contract arrangement with the council for the council to provide school improvement services. And the reason the North Tyneside Learning Trust, which is a large number of schools in the authority, buy into it is because they value and appreciate the service, and it's a very large contract, and they buy into it because they understand it. So there is a service level agreement. The North Tyneside Learning Trust do buy those services from the council, and we provide it. And actually, not financially rated, but I would like this opportunity to praise and thank the School Improvement Service for the hard work that they've done, because it's a no small feat to them and the hard work of the schools and the teachers that we are currently rated in effect, and I keep saying in effect because I know there's one small authority that beats us, but in effect top of the number of schools rated good and outstanding.
Well, you praise the workforce, councillor, but you say that one of the risks is that a further reduction of the school improvement workforce could reduce the visibility the council has of school standards. It's
always a risk, and it's been a risk previous years. However, because of the dedication and the hard work and the commitment from the Learning Trust to buy into the service level agreement, that there is a high level of buy-in and there is a good service provided. It's great. Yes, there is always a risk, but what this proposal is actually talking about is development of a professional development of existing staff, which allow for a streamlined and consistent approach to improve the delivery of the services we provide.
Thank you. That's 07. Anybody else? Councillor Lee's asked his questions. 08, which is 62 to 65. Maintain the environment in line with statutory responsibilities. 62 to 65. Has Councillor Hodgson got a question on this one? Or?
Yes, please, Chairman.
I thought you might.
In business case 08, they detailed £200,000 of saving in the environment budget. The case doesn't actually specify what is to be reduced there, and I wonder if the Cabinet member can tell us more specifically what standards are to be lowered, for example in grass cutting, flower beds, road sweeping, graffiti removal, litter collection and so on and so on. What is to be done with that saving?
With pleasure. Basically, what we're doing is being a little bit more innovative with the budget, which doesn't seem to have happened in the past. But basically, I'll give you a list of some of the ways we're doing it. I better put my glasses on because we're creating a new community and public space protection team. This involves bringing two teams together, and the savings to be made there. There's a reduction at horticultural fitters. That's bringing together two workshops and sort of getting economies of scale from there. A review of the bereavement services, which you know of. We're still looking at some things in there. There's a review of the grounds maintenance. It's to do with grass cutting, hedge trimming, and so. Basically, our idea of sort of planting these wildflower meadows, which I noticed you weren't too keen on when we actually brought them up, but a lot of people in your ward were. Actually saving. We're having to cut so much grass, so there's actually savings being made there. And there's so many councillors and other members of the public have asked for more of them this year because they've seen how good they were. There's going to be extra savings made there. I'd like to point out here that last year was the first year that a lot of people liked them. In the second year, they're actually better because they seed themselves. So basically, so what we're looking at that is looking at grounds maintenance standards, a review of. That's the shrub maintenance and that. A a review of the street cleansing. Well, the night-time economy, especially in Whitley Bay and places like that, is actually moved. So we're looking at a different shift pattern to actually sort of make savings there. These are all things that, you know, and there's going to be no sort of detriment to any of the services that we're producing. We'll still be cutting the grass just as many times as we did last year. All of the streets will be kept clean as they always have been. And basically we'll be doing everything, but we're just finding different ways of working.
Chairman, that sounds brilliant. So we're going to save £200,000 with no lowering standards at all.
Basically, that's what I'm saying. Yes.
Excellent. Thank you.
I'll bring him, Councillor McIntyre, because I'm spoken tonight.
Thank you, Chair. Just following on from that, Councillor Sterling, you said bringing two teams together. What you actually mean is possibly a reduction in the town centre cleaning, because I believe at the moment we have 3 teams in the cleaning, town centre cleaning. If you, thank you. Can I just ask, obviously, if that, you know, you're saying things have changed, what evidence have you got that things have changed, and can you explain about the 2 teams instead of 3? Or?
I think anybody that actually lives or goes around the area knows things do change. The nighttime economy is changing all the time, and people move to different areas. You'll find that in Whitley Bay at the moment, you're not getting so many stag parties and things like that out at night, and yet there's not so many people out. They seem to move the time out, so we are moving our operations time out. What we're actually doing is changing shift patterns. We're changing the shift patterns and sort of making it into 2 teams, which is a saving that can be made. But the service itself will not deteriorate any at all. So all of this, the same number of times people will the streets will be swept and everything. There's nothing going to be deteriorating at all. So I don't know where you get that idea from.
Thank you, Chair. The street cleaning isn't just about nighttime economy. If you're talking about pubs and nightclubs and things like that, you're talking about the town centre, and that's obviously litter from just general people shopping and litter being dropped. But when you're talking about Whitley Bay all the time, I don't know why. I mean, unless you're just reduction of town centre cleaning is happening in Whitley Bay, or is it happening in all of the town centres?
What is happening? The streets during the daytime will be cleaned the same number of times that it was cleaned. It's just at the night time where there's a few changes being made. So during the daytime, you'll have the same number of street cleaning and everything else. It's just during the night time when some changes will be made. It's a shift pattern.
Just moving on, when you said the grass cutting is going to be the same number of times each year, which I believe is 13 times a year now? 14, is it? Right. And obviously expanding the wildflower planting or seeding across the borough. There will be some reductions, obviously, from the costs that savings that you're making. So if it's not from the grass cutting itself, and it's not from, obviously, the wildflowers, where is that actual reduction going to come from? When you're saying you're reducing the manpower, it's got to have some reduction somewhere in the maintenance of the environment in the borough.
It's fairly simple, really. If you're putting more and more wildflower meadows, you don't have to cut the grass, so you've got less grass to cut. Basically, that's just where the savings are coming from. You don't have as much grass to cut. You don't have to do it 14 times, and basically that's where the savings are coming from.
Okay, I see that point, but there still has to be some reduction, and I'm just wondering if it's going to be things like edging of the grass, perhaps. You know, well, you're shaking your head, Councillor, but you know that is something that actually isn't being done very much now, but obviously could be reduced even further. So you're going to be cutting the grass, but the edgings around paths and you know, and the weeds growing and things like that, that's going to be obviously left.
Edging and the weed spraying will be the same as it was last year and the year before. Basically, nothing will happen to that. Basically, you know, when they do the wildflower, what they do, they cut a swathe like that, and that goes right to the edge. That's your edging. The wildflower is actually done in the middle, and that's where you're saving on the grass cutting. In the middle, to the back of the border.
Thank you. I think, I don't know, Councillor Wallace, did you indicate earlier before Councillor Lilly?
Yes, I think
Yeah,
so, Chairman.
okay, yeah.
Can I just clarify? We've heard that the grass cutting is going to stay the same, the edging is going to stay the same, the weed spraying. Is pruning, is the tree maintenance and pruning affected by this cut?
To save Councillor Sterling come back, I think he's said the point. You've got his plan is to save £200,000 and there's going to be no detriment to the environment. So that's for obviously used to notice or not. Councillor Lilly.
Thank you, I'm sure I can rely upon my residents. Sorry, David, I've got one more question.
Have you?
How many street cleaning teams do we have for our town centres at the moment, and how many will there be in the next financial year, please?
Councillor Sterling?
I think a colleague answered that question. We're going from 3 to 2, but it's a shift pattern that's changing. It's a night time that's being affected, not during the day.
Does that mean that the staff are working longer hours than Chairman?
I don't want to labour this point, but I'm just trying to think. The work with shift patterns, so I think Councillor Sterling has given his guarantee that the town centres in the daytime will be cleaned as much as they are now, and it's just at the night time the shift pattern is changing. So I think that's your notification. There's a different way of working. Councillor Lilly.
Sorry, Chair, did Councillor Sterling say that we were going to reduce the number of grass cuttings because of these wildflowers down to 13?
Well, you said 13. Can I just say, your colleague said...
No, I just asked the question. Did you say 13?
Your colleague said, no, it's 14. It was
right,
actually...
that's okay, because you said 13 in your answer.
Councillor Sterling, Councillor Lilly. I think the answer was that it's 14 cuts a year, but it's not changing. But where there is wildflowers, obviously there's less need to cut that particular area. So that's where your saving comes from. So I think that's fine. Right, so we've got over the grass, we'll go over the wildflowers. Right, that was 62 to 65. Thank you very much everyone for that. Now we've got to 66 to 75, which is 09 commission value for money, adult social care services. And I was just going to say, Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Chair. Just for clarification on the business plan on page 68, it says North East Commissioner support case managers are responsible for the setting up the person's care package, the day-to-day management and reviewing the package, which is similar to our in-house social work teams. Does that mean that they're going to decommission next to do the work and bring it back in-house?
Thank you, Councillor Miller. Yes, in fact, we've actually been commissioned by the CCG to provide that service, and we will receive a payment. We are doing very much similar work, and we've been working alongside NEXT for quite a considerable time. And we are receiving a budget to bring that work in, and we will administer that scheme.
So how much are we bringing in for that?
I believe it's 300,000.
300,000. The next question that I've got is in relation to the headline figure. It says a review of older people with physical disability, appropriate funding streams and continuing healthcare, case management and daycare review. There's £1 million clunked together in that. I just wonder if it's possible to have a breakdown, because there's I'm sure there's a plethora of different activities in that £1 million clunked together. Just wonder if I can have that for the next meeting, please.
Yes, I think that would be possible. In fact, I did actually say that that would be nice to actually break that down. It is a substantial sum, yes, and I have actually asked for that, yeah. I'll make sure that officers do provide that.
Okay, on 09, any more questions? No? Okay, thank you. 76 to 81, section 10. This is 10, effective housing solutions. I've got two. Councillor Austin, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Could I just ask some questions on the shared lives scheme, please, to the Cabinet Member?
Shared lives?
I'm just wondering how many shared lives carers we have currently.
How many shared lives carers we have currently, is that correct?
Yes, sorry. Yes.
If you haven't got a hand, you can always just put it in the submission in.
I actually did think I had that. I thought I'd asked that question. If you just hold on one moment.
I'm sure we can just provide that in writing.
Yeah,
If
I think
councillor...
I thought I had asked.
Oh, sorry, fair comment.
I thought I had
Have you got
provided. Oh,
enough?
sorry, I beg your pardon. We have 43 registered shared lives carers. I knew I had asked the question, but I couldn't find it in my paperwork.
That's fine, thank you. And from the papers, you want to increase that by 10 over the next 2 years. But given the number of staffs to be reduced, I've just wondered how you can guarantee that you'll actually recruit the extra 10.
How can you guarantee the extra 10?
Chair could help us people in the back. Even with the microphone, we can't hear what's being asked, so we're sitting in the dark here.
I don't think it's in the dark because it's late, but the microphone's on and Councillor Austin, I can hear her, but obviously her voice is not travelling, but she may have a poorly voice at the moment, so I don't really ask the lady to shout, so I'll convey. Right, the question was, there's 43 and you've said you're going to engage 10 more in the next 2 years, but...
I'm just wondering how that's going to happen given that you're reducing the staff.
You're
How
gonna-
do you ensure that you'll get the extra 10?
Yes, thank you, Councillor. Actually, I did query that with our senior management within the team. Apparently, they've done a review of some of the other councils in the area, and they felt that the staffing team was actually overstaffed for doing the same amount of work. So they've looked at it, they've rationalised the team, and decided that some of the work was being duplicated within the team. So they've decided that because of the duplication, some of the work was already being done by other members of the team. So they're going to try and recruit another 5 this year and another 5 carers this year and another 5 carers with the staff members that are there. Yeah.
Right. Just one final question, Chair, if I could. I know a little bit about the service because I know someone who's involved in it. But from what I've seen, it doesn't seem to be terribly well advertised or very well known. There's people I know who I expected would know about it, who don't, and who would possibly take part in something like that. And I just wondered if there's any plans to increase or improve the way it's advertised so that it becomes more well known in the borough.
Well, that's a very good point. I mean, we'll take that on board. Obviously, if we don't think that we're marketing the service as we should, then we should take that on board, and we do, because obviously financially it is much better for us to do that, because I believe to provide shared, which is in fact foster care for adults really, it's about £20,000 per year, as opposed to 70,000 when we do a wraparound 27 care within another establishment, say an ISL service or other service. So it is financially beneficial to the council to have them within a shared life service. Something that we'll look at, and I'm sure that officers who are sitting in the gallery will take that on board. Thank you very much for that suggestion, Councillor Austin.
Thank you very much, Councillor Austin. I think Councillor Miller wants to come in here.
Thank you, Chair. My question is just in relation to the extra care housing. I note that you're proposing new charging policies. Just wondered, does that apply to existing residents in extra care schemes, or does that just apply to anybody who's newly going into a new home?
Which was that, Councillor?
Page 77 in relation to the extra care scheme.
Please bear with me, I've got lots of
right.
business cases, so it takes me a while to get through the paperwork.
I'd be happy to answer that in writing. That would be easier.
Well, it's just, I can tell you for now.
It'll be for existing, and then obviously as people move into new ones, we will not extend that to people who are in existing extra care.
Right. So
Just for new people. Just for new, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. That was 10. Anyone 10? No. Okay. 82 to 91, 11. We looked after children's services. I was just going to say before, Councillor Lilly.
Thank you, Chair. I just wonder if we could be informed of what cuts there will be in the RELAX service because of the reduction in funding that service will receive.
Are you on business case 11, the looked after children? because this is actually proposing that there'll be an expansion of staffing to increase the provision. I think there's a net increase of 7 staff. So there's actually 9 additional staff and two reduction, a net increase of 7 staff. And what we're actually looking to do, so it's actually expanding the service, building on the service, because of external advice that we've had, showing that an analysis has shown that the number of looked after children has increased year on year over the last few years, and therefore what we've received is some external advice about how we can actually increase the proportion of children living safely at home, which is what I'm sure we would all want, and we would all want as corporate parents, therefore reducing the numbers of looked after children in the authority. So it's actually about additional staffing, and it is outlined in the business case, so that we're refocusing prevention and early health support to prevent more children or to reduce the number of children in care. So it's actually a net increase in the provision of services so that we can make savings because of the 20% target reduction of looked after children. That's what we're doing in this one.
So the savings premised on the fact that we'll have less looked after children?
Yes, it's outlined in the business case, and this is actually because of external advice that we commissioned and received, which has shown this has been successful in other parts of the borough, where targeting resources earlier and putting strategies in to prevent children going into care will save money. It's something like 96%. There's 96% of children who go into care in the last 3 years of being a child, the latter years of being a child, haven't had any interaction with the early health system at all. And therefore, if we can put early help and prevention strategies in, we certainly would be looking to reduce the number of that age group of children going into care. And that's where the savings are, but it's actually an additional net 7 members of staff, and I think the titles are in the business case, and it's outlined on page 82, additional social workers and other things as well. Page 82. They're in the business case anyway. 6 additional full-time social support workers, 1 full-time equivalent specialist social worker, and it's just member of staff for the family, but we are reducing by 2 residential unit deputy posts, a net increase of 7.
So the same report suggested that we should have more specialist foster carers for troubled young people. How are we going to recruit these, and how quickly can we recruit them?
Well, I don't think anybody can answer how quickly we can recruit them. Yes, the intention is, well, the first intention is, as I've said, and the business case on, is the intention is to keep more children at home safely in their environment, so reduce them going into the care system, whether that's fostering or residential home or external placement. The other part of this would be to reduce the number of external placements, which are the most expensive form of placement that we do for our children, and therefore if we could reduce the number of external placements and have more in our residential homes in the authority, that would reduce it. And if we can actually have less in residential homes and more in foster cares, that will reduce the costs. And because foster care inside the local authority is one of the cheaper forms of social care, and it's actually better for the child because it's a more homely environment. So how quickly we're going to recruit them, I don't think anybody can answer, but certainly by the additional work that we're putting in place and the additional staffing, we are intending reducing the different categories of children in care, because I'm sure it's what we would all want as corporate parents, and there are financial savings because external residential placements are the most costly of the options that we have.
Thank you. These are laudable aims, Councillor, to reduce the number of looked after children, and especially the ones who we send outside the borough, because we both know, having sat in the same chair at different times, how expensive these are. But by the same token, we both know how difficult it is actually to achieve these aims. I mean, these aims have been going for years, haven't they? It's not the easiest of jobs to reduce the number of looked after children. partly because it's a demand-led service. So obviously you have an aim for 20% reduction. You must have contingency plans in place if it becomes difficult to achieve this, this target.
Well, I can answer the last bit first, because that was easy, because I think the Chief Finance Officer highlighted in the contingencies that there was element of previous overspend in looked after children category, therefore there is an element in the contingency budget for this year. However, but the main thrust, as you've identified and I've tried to explain, is the reducing of the number of looked after children. It is a laudable aim, but because of the additional staffing and the external advice that we've received and learning from other authorities, we do feel that reducing the number of children in looked after care is achievable, and I'm sure it's what we should be aiming for and wanting to do anyway. So the aim is to keep more children safer at home. So yes, there is some uncertainty, but the advice, the external advice from experts, consultants we've received and learning from other authorities, it has been achieved elsewhere, so it's something that we're going to attempt to do as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And Councillor Wagner?
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to give some additional information to Councillor Austin and Councillor Miller. Looking through the amount of paperwork, I've found out that I have got the officers have developed a marketing strategy already for shared lives. So that's already being done. And Councillor Miller, no wonder I couldn't find the business case. The extra care services is actually for 2017-2018. It's not for this financial year.
Okay, thank you. Right, so that's 11. Yeah. We're going to page 92, 95. Sorry, Councillor. Sorry.
On page 87, Chairman, at the final paragraph, I just wondered if the Cabinet Member can explain how that work there fits with the Troubled Families programme.
Sorry, I found the paragraph you mean, but what's the question?
You're developing locality teams of staff. I'm wondering how they fit with the existing work under the Troubled Families programme.
Part of this business case is to review and develop and review the 0 to 19. So it is, if this budget is agreed, then there will be work through the senior officers and consultation with staff about the development of locality teams so that it will be a more efficient and effective way of working. But as I say, staff have obviously been consulted during the process because that's right and proper, but actually development of the proposals would only be able to occur after Council has agreed the proposals. So the advice that we've been receiving is that this would be a more efficient way of working and actually allow less professionals to be working with families. So instead of the previous case where there was lots of different professionals working with a particular family, it would be that there would be smaller teams of professionals working with families to get the more targeted help and the support that they need, rather than potentially conflicting advice because of the different numbers of professionals previously involved.
Thank you. So, in essence, is that an extension of the Troubled Families work then? Because that the idea behind that was to reduce the number of professionals that families had to deal with.
As the councillor is well aware, because it's been previously reported, the North Tyneside received national recognition at how successfully we were in the Troubled Families programme and the number of interventions, successful interventions that we had. So she's right to highlight that as a success. So I do thank her for that because I'd forgotten. But it will be developing and expanding on that, because what that was doing was once again having more targeted support to a particular family that was in trouble, and it was successful. So it is actually building on that model to having area teams, not just trouble families, but for families, for children who potentially may be under threat or in danger of going into care. So it is expanding on that and building on the successes of that, as the council has done right to highlight to us.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I'm more than happy to highlight that work. It's an excellent government initiative.
Oh, I see. Governments can do things right as well as things wrong. So that's 11, look after children's services. So the next one will be 12, which is supporting young people, adults employment, which is 92 to 95, number 12. I've got Councillor Lilly.
Sorry, Chair.
No, that's all right.
Just could I ask the Cabinet member how confident he is of securing the grant increased external funding that would be required to maintain the service at the level it is at the moment?
Yes, Chair. The business case actually proposes £100,000 worth of additional grant funding and £150,000 of reviewing of the staff. However, since the start of the consultation, we have had confirmation that we will receive European funding in excess of £200,000, but potentially up to £600,000. That's not in the business case, Chair. That's additional information that we've received since the papers were produced. So we actually have got double the amount of external funding that we were seeking as a minimum, and potentially significantly more than we were seeking. Therefore, at request of the staff representatives, we have put on hold the reviewing of the staff in this area, because we were only looking for £250,000 total in this area initially. We've been guaranteed £200,000 in excess of European funding, with potentially up to £600,000. So it makes sense to wait the outcome of this excellent news for the authority in achieving such a sizable external European funding grant, and then have further consultations with the staff about the best way forward, because it might actually be that we would need additional staff in this area.
That certainly is good news, Chair, to be welcomed by all of us that we've managed to secure that grant money. On page 94, it identifies other income sources, and also says this funding is at risk. Can the Cabinet member explain what's meant there? How is it at risk? How
yes.
Are we at
yes,
risk of losing
absolutely.
all
No,
part of it or none of it?
It's a very good question, Councillor Lilly, because this business case was written before we had secured confirmation of the additional grant of £200,000. We were aiming, and it was a target to achieve £100,000 of additional European funding, and that's why it was a risk, because we weren't guaranteed it. Since this business case was written, we have had confirmation that we'll receive at least £200,000, so the risk has been mitigated, and as I've said, we would actually, well, we're optimistic we may get significantly more, and it might mean that we could have additional staffing and resources in this area. So the risk has been mitigated by the good news that I've just announced.
You just bear with me a moment while I get my head around that. So the total of 468,000 that's mentioned there that could be at risk, is that on page 94? It says the Employment and Skills Service also receives 164k, 100k and 182k via different things. This funding is also at risk if wider decisions are made regarding schools' contributions to the council. Work is underway to secure schools' funding. That's what I was asking for an explanation.
That's not at risk.
It's not at risk at all?
No, because
right.
there's been decisions made, and as I said, the grant's been in.
So
we're not, and I think I reported that the schools forum met a couple of weeks ago, and they've made their decisions on.
So all of that money is secure in that.
That's my understanding, because the only decision that schools forum made that wasn't what we were requesting was regarding early years funding grant that I was asked about by Councillor Drummond earlier.
So really, this business change could.
What would be helpful, absolutely, Councillor, what would be helpful is if, now that we've had the news, we updated and rewrote this business case and circulated it to all councillors and took the revised one to Cabinet in March, as we do with all of them.
Because
it is hot off the press.
It's good news. I was concerned about the customer implications in the next box. About
Have you got any more questions on this one?
No.
Right. Well, thanks for that, Councillor Grayson. Right, that's 12. 13, corporate debt, and the pages 96 to 99. No, excellent. 14 is review of our estate, which is 100 to 164, and that's review of our estate. I see no one hand. Well, I see two hands. Councillor Hodgson.
Chairman, page 106. the North East Combined Authority are to receive £50,000 from us for reserves. And I just wonder what the money, why is the money required for reserves? What is to be done with those reserves? What share of the provision of the reserves are coming from North Tyneside's residents? And will there be further payments required by the Combined Authority in the future?
Where's it gone? Well,
I'm on page 106. Am I ahead of the game?
It's one, we're on 14, review of our estates, pages 100, 164, so he's in the right ballpark.
Page 106.
Well, it's 100, 140, aren't we? 107 gives you the details.
On page 106, Chairman, there's a contribution to NECA General Reserve.
104 apparently, I've been told now.
106 in my copy. I know, transport, I'm trying to get there.
Chairman, this question refers to the next business case, not the business case you're currently discussing.
You've got the growth business case. Well, we should be finished. Well, if 14 is not, as long as we're speaking about 14, there's no all the business cases.
Chairman, it's headed Growth 1, Business Case Growth 1.
What page is it on?
I think actually, Chairman, my colleague's ahead of himself there.
Yeah, I think he has, yeah. Just got a little ahead of himself, yeah. So just keep that in any case. Right, so the position where we've done B. B's done, appendices B's done. Oh, you did raise your hand, sorry. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. On business case 14, I think it is, yes. On the review of the estates, Chairman, it says that 86 properties are currently within the scope of the review. This is on page 101, including the Quadrant campus. Can the Cabinet member tell us what proposals there are with regard to the Quadrant buildings?
I can. As we're looking at how we utilise the staff and the staff reductions that we've got, we're looking at can we make better use of the west part of the campus. In other words, do we need the whole 3 floors, or can we, by moving staff around, free up one of the floors, which will allow us to let it out to somebody else? And that's part of the review that they're carrying out for us.
Thank you. Those of us who are members of the council when the lease of this property was taken might remember that we argued against taking that. Does the Cabinet member agree that it was a mistake to take the lease on?
The answer is no, because somebody signed an agreement that said we'd have that level of property estate. And as I said, we're looking into how we can rationalise it. We just had a big discussion on the business case about more agile working, more people working from home, more people hot desking, so they require less number of desks. And it's about how we actually gain the efficiencies of the staff that we've got, and at the same time free up valuable office space which can be used by somebody else, and we can get an income into the council. So to me it seems to be a very good point, because the money we have saved by moving into these 2 buildings has been significant over the years.
Can the Cabinet member tell me if the John Willie Sam Centre and the Langdale Centre and the Riverside Centre are also part of this review?
All buildings are part of the review, and we're looking at, for instance, the one you just mentioned, the John Willie Sands. We're looking at can we use that to allocate additional staff in there, which will not only maintain but enhance the services from that particular building. Riverside Centre is the same, looking at what use we have of that building and can we utilise, enhance the services. And what was the other building you mentioned? And the Langdale Centre. The Langdale Centre is tied in with the work we're doing at the John Willie Sam Centre. Can we move some of the courses that are run there from the John Willie Sands Centre, so freeing up part of the Langdale Centre for a council asset?
Thank you. Right. So now we should be moving on to appendices C, which is for the everyone's following. These are the back of the A4 at the back. Starts off prudential indicators, and we've got C1 as well. Sorry, is investment plan summary 79. So we'll start with 79, which is at the back of your big sheets. So we'll start off at 79, which is on that sheet, and then we eventually end up on A4. So appendices C, starting page 79, if everyone can get to that point. And piece C, it says should start 2016-2019 investment plan summary. So if we go to page 79, is there any questions on page 79? No. Page 80, Councillor Hodgson.
Thanks, Chairman. The council is to receive 3.2 million from the local transport plan and is going to allocate 2 million itself to road maintenance. And I wonder if Councillor Harrison, if he could tell us what his plans are for the upgrading of his state roads and especially pavements.
He's saying you need 2 million for the authority and he wants to know about your state roads and the state of the pavements. What are you going to do about them?
Yes. Is that right? Right. Present moment, as we know, we've just agreed a HAMP, which is a Highways Asset Management Plan, and once that plan's been finalised and the officers are working on the various roads and pavements, we will be rolling out that programme against that HAMP.
Thank you, Chairman. The council is pursuing plans to encourage cycling across the borough. Unfortunately, cycling is one of the most dangerous ways of travelling. What plans have the council got to make that as safe as possible?
I was going to say it. Don't worry.
We're not asking questions.
No, it's all right.
We're drifting away here.
Just calm yourself down. I'll chair the meeting. Thank you for your point of order.
Chairman, the local transport plan does deal with safety and cycling.
But I think, can you not rephrase it a different way or something? It's more like a general sort of, you know, we're talking about both, the first point you said, which was the figure. You've asked the councillor and he's replied. So I think now really, you don't know.
Well, Chairman, later on we deal with a plan to build a cycle track. That's detailed in the papers later on.
Right, okay, so come
Can
on.
we include it in that, please?
Yeah, yeah.
What plans are the council making to improve cycling safety?
Yeah, okay, we've got you. And at the end, you can, everyone has the chance to ask a question, so get your fit in there. So we're on to page 80 at the moment. Yeah? And you just asked a question on the local transport plan. Is there any more on page 80? 81. Oh, this is about Pacific. No. 82.
Chairman, the top of 81 is the Coast Road cycle route. Could I put the safety in there, please?
So you're referring to the the Coast Road cycle route, is that correct, sir? Right. Would you like to add any comment to that, or?
I can elaborate.
Right. I think it's the figures are there, so we'll just go with that.
Right. The short answer to the first query that the council had was very simple. Is this council, through one of its scrutiny groups, actually looked at cycling strategies.
Yeah.
We as a cabinet have adopted that. We're certainly working with officers to actually work against, I think it was 9 recommendations within there. We're certainly trying to work towards that, to develop a proper cycling strategy within North Tyneside. And that will take, you're quite right, it takes quite a bit of time to get people thinking in a slightly different way and getting people encouraged. There's also a number of schemes, I think you're aware of, that the Mayor has actually encouraged people to take up, and that's getting young people to cycle to school and certainly getting them involved in their cycling proficiency. So we're doing a full range of that. The Coast Road cycling is part of that strategy as well. It links into Newcastle, so what we're doing is ensuring that one would be able to cycle from Newcastle to the coastal area and similarly cycling from the coastal area back into Newcastle. That does a number of things for us. That does allow more people to use that for the commute and certainly a leisure element, but specifically motor commuting. So we're linking into Newcastle, who receive quite a substantial amount of money to become a cycling city. So we're ensuring those routes that take us to, for example, here, our town centres and other key areas. We're trying to ensure that those cycling routes are linked to.
Thank you for that reply. Right, okay. Right, so that's 81. Any more questions on 81? No? 82? 82? No? 83? Ready for school and work. Now we come on to the 84,000. Are we okay with that? Then we come on to the little one, 85. If you could just go through the papers and just shout up if you have a question. Councillor Hodgson, what?
Chairman, my omission. Could we go back to page 82 in the warm zone one?
If Councillor Hodgson wants to go back to 82, he can go back. No, be kind now. 82, Councillor Hodgson.
Thank you. The warm zone project is to receive £100,000, you see, this year.
Yeah.
42,000 next year and 0 after that. Yeah. This is in marked reduction to what we have put into it before, and the heating and reduction of heating and waste of heating in homes is one of the principal requirements to fight global warming. Now I wonder if Councillor Sterling could help us with that. Why are we spending so little on this important subject?
Very easy answer. Basically, warm zone has been one of our success stories. We get about 5 times more out of it than we actually put in, and it's actually reducing fuel bills for people across the borough. It's absolutely one of our really success stories. The reason why it's £100,000 this year is because that's what it's always been. But next year, your government are changing the rules again, which happens fairly often. And they're going to bring in some new sort of scheme. They're taking away the scheme that we've had for the past 5 years. And actually they're going to bring in a new scheme. And there's a transitional period. And until we know what they're actually going to bring in, we'll put a contingency to take us through to when the old scheme finishes. But basically we don't know what's going to be brought in after that. And seemingly, warm zone don't know what's going to be brought in after that. On top of them putting all this money to heat savings and stuff like that, warm zone have actually brought in £1 million to our residents in North Tyneside through benefit maximisation. So it's one of our really big success stories. But until the government decide what they're going to do and what new scheme they're going to bring in, the 42,000 covers the time until the new scheme comes out.
So, Chairman, we're not quite sure about home insulation for the future. Is that what you're saying, Councillor?
It's the government, plain and simple. The scheme that was bringing money from the government into warm zone, and it actually came from your sort of suppliers and that. It was the subsidy. The government are taking that out and they're going to roll out a new scheme. We do not know what the new scheme is of yet. Warm zone. I had a meeting last week and we were talking about this very subject. Basically, we don't know what the new scheme is going to be, but we're putting a £42,000 in to make sure it takes up to the end of the old scheme.
Yeah. Thank you for that. That answers the question. So we're waiting for the new scheme, so we'll have to see what the new scheme comes to us. Right, so we'll go back to 85, and I hope councillors have gone through the paper, so they may have points of interest as we go through them. And then, obviously, I'm trying to read as well. So 86, 87, 88, 89, Appendix C, 90 to 91, 92 to 93, 94, 94, then we come into appendices D, the Treasury Management Strategy, which is page 95, and then 96, and then we come on to Appendix E, which is Summary of Engagement, which is page 97. Now I've got how's that Wendy lot?
Can I ask the Cabinet Member to explain how residents have been engaged with on the Council plan and budget proposals, and can she also explain what further opportunities there will be for residents to continue to have their say?
Thank you, Chair. Residents and service users and other key stakeholders, such as the community and voluntary sector, businesses and public sector partners, have been involved in a number of different ways. It is important to note that these council plan and budget proposals reflect our ongoing involvement with the residents and not just at budget time, which I mentioned earlier. It began last summer when we held a series of events across the borough. The Big Community Conversation programme involved over 1,100 residents' face-to-face discussions at 48 events across all areas of the borough. We asked residents what their priorities were for themselves, their families and the borough. 755 questionnaires were completed with over 5,000 separate comments. And this brought to the 2,500 engagement conversations with adult residents, and there was even more with our young people. The feedback from the Big Community Conversations fed into a draft council plan and budget priorities agreed by Cabinet on the 14th of September. Between the 15th of September and the end of November, we asked residents for feedback on Cabinet's initial proposals. This was through 8 public meetings held in the afternoon and evenings, plus an additional event for the residents panel, a questionnaire on the Council's website. Feedback from this phase of engagement went into the Cabinet's considerations. Between the 8th of December and the 31st of January 2016, we asked residents and others again for their feedback, again on the draft proposals. This included a public meeting, which I referred to earlier, online and social media, with almost 2,300 followers and on Facebook and 7,700 on Twitter. Meetings with key groups of residents, including older and young people. Meetings with businesses and community and voluntary sector. In total, the council plan and budget proposals we held 18 events attended by 225 people. As we have just covered in the debate about the petition on the childcare proposals, we also consulted on these between the 8th of December and the 24th of January. This involved over 100 people at 19 events, 155 people who completed an online questionnaire, 24 people who submitted letters or emails. As you know, 3,129 people also signed a petition. Opportunities to get involved in all of this were publicised via the press, social media and Council's website. We also put up posters at 33 locations across the borough, including at libraries, in the parks, at leisure centres, customer first centres, as well as community venues and supermarkets. We also directly contacted people who are on our mailing list for engagement events. This approach has been an excellent value for money and has ensured that residents have had lots of different opportunities to get involved. We know that in some ways are more popular than others. Not everyone likes to come to a meeting. So we continue to review how we do things to make sure that people can get involved in a way that suits them. Feedback from the people who have been involved in the engagement process has been overwhelmingly positive. The role of the elected members, and it is important to say this, is critical. One of the best ways to ensure that people can get involved is for members to encourage it and to signpost people to the opportunities to do so. We would
also important, we also are open to suggestions about new ways to involve people. Through our engagement approach, we have significantly increased the number of people involved throughout the year. In a total, this year, we have had over 2,500 conversations with residents about how they feel about local services and what their priorities are. We have seen an improvement in how many people feel informed about what the Council is doing and feels the Council can act on their concerns. In relation to question 2 that Councillor Lott asked me, yes, being a listening council, we make sure that we are engaging with our residents in lots of different ways, as set out in our draft engagement strategy, which was approved by Cabinet on the 14th of September last year, and which we are currently consulting on with key groups. Our approach includes informing people through clear information about the Council and its services, including through the website and our North Tyneside Residents magazine, social media, consulting with our specific proposals for change or new approaches, including planning and licensing issues, involving people to have their say and to help shape changes, including through community-level engagement via community conversation, activities and walkabouts, collaborating or co-producing with people to design new ways to things, including our housing tenants, users of social care services and their carers. We also pay particular attention to making sure that we are involving our young people, and it's important for them to have their say. They are the future of our borough. Our approach delivers value for money with effective two-way communication with our residents. People will be able to continue to have their say through a range of different ways to suit them. We will continue to provide information throughout the year on how members can be involved. This information will be shared with elected members. We will also be publishing regular feedback on outcomes from engagement activities, as we know that this is something that is important to the residents and others. Specifically on the budget proposals themselves, there will be further involvement and opportunities for residents and others as changes are implemented. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Wallace?
Yes, Chairman. I note what the report says about engagement. Can the Cabinet member tell us when the residents' views were sought on the possibility of increasing the council tax?
I think that's already been covered by that lengthy statement.
Chairman, in the report it's never specifically mentioned that any idea of raising the council tax was floated in front of the residents at all.
Yes.
Close that engagement. I attended as the Deputy Mayor with other Cabinet members and the Mayor to at least 2 occasions where it's been discussed, and one of the options to people are, would you be prepared to pay more for additional services or cut the services? And the discussion most of the time would be they would prefer to pay more than see exact cuts in services. So I do know at least 2 or 3 meetings where I've been at personally where the issue has been raised and discussed.
I want to move on. So what we'll do is we'll get you in writing which meetings was attended by Councillor Pickard and others.
I'm surprised, Chairman, that it wasn't considered sufficiently important to include in the list of topics covered in the report.
Yeah. That's obviously a point you can take. Councillor Austin.
Thank you, Chair. Just 2 questions on the engagement on page 98. Looking at the list of engagement activity, am I right in thinking the only public engagement event that was held at the coast? I'll try and check.
I told you I'll convene what Councillor Austin is saying. Carry on.
Just looking at the list of engagement events that were held on page 98, would I be right in thinking the only public engagement event which was held at the coast was the Transgender Age UK group on the 16th of December?
Well, the only consultation held was a transgender on the 6th. Was that 16th? 16th of December. That's what Councillor Austin was asking.
Yeah.
The coast.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
So that was the only engagement for coastal residents was transgender age UK group?
As I've alluded to earlier, and I will keep repeating myself, Chair, and I'm sorry, but I know we're not supposed to repeat ourselves, there is several opportunities for all residents within North Tyneside to engage with the council through the council. So we've gone through that, and I mean, I can only keep repeating myself about how many different ways we can engage. And I think we have got this opportunity for elected members and the residents to engage in different ways or come up with new ideas. And if, Councillor Austin, if you've got something new that you would like to offer, any opinions or any views with regard to how else you think we can engage and not just the events. I mean, I consider that we try to strive for value for money, and putting an event on costs us around about £190. That is a massive saving considering to what it was actually costing us when your administration was in, and it was around 750 for a local area forum. So if they're not working, and if we're only going to get that one person coming, then we need to review it. And hence why I said earlier in my response to Councillor Ott's question about the future of engagement is we will continue to review. It is very, very open, and that's one thing in the beauty about having engagement. We can review the process and how we actually engage with our residents, but we don't want to make that decision. We want the residents and elected members to say how they would like to do it if they don't think it's working. And again, I think it's got to come down, because of all the government cuts and what the council face, we have got to look after how much it costs to put an event on. And if we're only going to get a meeting and one person turns up, well, clearly we need to look at that. And that is exactly what we're doing. And that's why social media is actually taken off with our young people as well. So these are the things that, yes, we will be doing, and we do take the engagement very seriously. And can I just say, my report this evening isn't just about the coast. Whilst that's very important, we have other parts of the borough as well, and we want to engage with all our residents. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, why not, you know?
First of all, the social media taken off when there was only actually 29 online responses. I think that's a bit dubious on something this major. To get 29 responses is fairly poor. On the holding events, it's that if you build it, they will come. If you don't hold the events, obviously people aren't going to come. And to say that the cost of £190 for a budget engagement, to talk about whether you're going to put people's council tax up by 4%, and you don't think it's worth spending that money to get people at the coast.
Councillor Austin, I hate to interrupt because I was seeing the pick on you, but have you got a question? That's more like a comment, a preamble. Are you just saying that basically they're not doing the engagements very well?
I guess I'm definitely saying that.
Yeah. We've got your gist. Okay, I don't want to cut you off again. Yeah. Councillor Austin, just, we've got your point. No, I'm not having, I'm sick of this. This thing about one event on the coast and engagement. Councillor Austin's got her point across very well, and no doubt she'll make little, you've had a good reply. Councillor Mavera.
Chair, just a point of order really to check what time this meeting actually started. Did this start at 10 to 7?
It started
have to move an extension.
It started 20, no, you don't need an extension.
That's fair enough. Just checking.
Plenty of time.
Yeah.
The people just kept to the, you know, where we're going, the track. Do you wish to speak?
I just want to make a point. If councillors aren't happy with what's going on, I'm quite willing. I've got an open door policy, come and tell me. We've had a number of events where there's only one Conservative councillor turned up, and that was Councillor Lilly. I haven't seen any of the other councillors at any of the events we've had.
So, well, there's obviously a conflict of engagement, and Councillor Austin contends that there's only one event being about the budget and the coast, which has made a point. Councillor Burtis has replied that the engagement we've done is wholesome, and that's fine. So we are now on, I don't think there's anybody else. Would you want to wish to speak? Councillor Magafell? Well, I might do.
I was just going to say for Councillor Austin, I attended both the residents panel, and all the members of the people on the table, all the residents, were from the Colour Coats and Whitley Bay area.
Okay, right. Right, we'll carry on now on to reserves and balance policies. That's Appendix F, and that's on 105. So we've got reserves and balances policy. Have we got anybody wishing to go through Appendix F? Is there any will left? Appendix G, financial planning and budget process. That's a Nelson, 111. And then Appendix H, which H for hotel, glossary of terms. I don't think anyone's got any questions on glossary of terms, are we? Right. So I think we've covered everything wholesomely. Some things have been covered more than once. And I thank everyone for their debate tonight. It's been very good. It's been good silence held when people are trying to speak. I thank Councillor Austin because obviously she's trying to speak as best she can. I've conveyed on. I thank you for that. I'm sorry for cutting you off before because I've been a bit of a grumpy bear. So that's just me. All the written responses that have been provided tonight will be provided to you by the close of play on the 13th of February. So if you were due written response, it'll be mostly to the members of the Conservative Party. That'll be the 13th of February. The meeting now will be now stand adjourned until we reconvene this meeting at 6 o'clock on the 18th of February. So we'll be back then for more lively debate, no doubt. But thank you very much. And we look forward to everyone's proposals, yes, so we can do things better. But thank you very much.